All right, everybody. Welcome to More Social. Kind of reluctant to do all of this video creation stuff, but looking for a bit of a creative outlet. So yeah, I guess I'm just jumping into it. I spent a little bit of time, over the last, 6 months or year, following, influencers, learning about creating content, and overall, I just found that I had a desire to build and create some things of my own. Been a software developer, still a software developer for 20 plus years, and there's a lot of great opportunities to create software, build apps, code, design. There's all kinds of things to do. It's a great profession from that perspective. But in all reality, I kind of hit a point where I realized that you have to reach a little bit. You have to pursue things and get out of your comfort zone, and so that's a little bit of where I'm at with creating my YouTube channel. So I'm going to kind of go through, I guess, a little bit of my overall background, and then jump into the different view I have on self-improvement. I suppose kind of don't like that term that much. Personal development, becoming your best. Those are things that I think have greater impact and kind of are more encapsulating of what people are really trying to accomplish with self-improvement. So as a whole, I had, pretty typical story. There's probably everybody has some variation of this, but I started out working retail jobs, worked at a restaurant, and then not really clear on what I wanted to do in terms of a career. I entered skilled labor and became a concrete finisher, and overall worked with general construction. And after about a year of that, I realized that I didn't want to do that forever. So I went back and dove back into school, and I pursued my bachelor's degree. And then I kind of reached the end of that job at the same time that I finished my college degree. Dating myself a little bit, but back in about 2004. So I was, still in a place struggling to figure out what I was going to do for work and in a career, and just started pursuing my interests a little bit as far as jobs that were in the, job listings and classifieds and you name it. This is still a period of time when the internet has not obviously taken up the kind of space that it is now. So I found a job as a web assistant, and I learned how to I learned the pretty much from the ground up HTML, CSS, JavaScript, basic stuff. And I was fortunate to recognize the need for that position to to use software to program. And so then I pursued learning to write software. That being said, I'll probably circle back on my full story at some point in another video, but for now, just kind of want to level set with where I'm at. And the first thing is that I can't create, or I can't shake the urge to want to create something of my own. There's a lot of great companies to work for out there as a software developer, a lot of great positions. It's a tough market right now, but for me, it's less about looking to find another job or even just maintain, the job I'm in. I'm fine being in the job I'm in. There's nothing there that I'm necessarily trying to escape, but there's still this piece of me that realizes the power of the tools, the capabilities I have as a software developer. And one of the things that I've sort of discovered is the idea of being an entrepreneur or a business owner. It's not necessarily about wanting to create a job for myself, but it's about trying to find ways to innovate and really setting yourself out there, and to learn in a more organic way. One of the challenges that I feel comes from learning in university is, or really in the traditional education system, is that we are taught that you have to learn everything and then you have to pass an exam, and then there's this grading scale, and all these things start to factor in. But the entrepreneurs and the business people that I've followed who appear to have the kind of success that I think is noteworthy, they are much more inclined to say that just-in-time learning is more effective. And for me, at this point, it's a lot more interesting. I absolutely am a huge advocate of learning, but I've taken on an approach of learning that's somewhat different from what the traditional path is I guess encouraged for people. So I have some other things that are starting to I guess come to fruition for me. I do have some additional information or additional, I guess, experience or exposure to some marketing. I have a minor in marketing from my undergraduate studies, and then I'm starting to realize that I have a desire to lead people, to help other people come along. I think that's an area where things are sorely lacking for our younger generations. So as I kind of mentioned that, I think people are instructed in a typical way to pursue learning through college, or they're encouraged to, find, say, a government job or some sort of job that gives them this, sort of pure longevity and time to work and earn. I'm not necessarily saying, obviously, those jobs are necessary, but what I'm saying is that I think that they stifle the best person that's inside each and every one of us. So when we end up in a job where we are tied to the amount of money we make because it provides for the bills we have to pay, those are legitimate things. I'm not knocking that, but I'm saying there are some other things along the way that I think are important to try to take a better mindset of. I mean, for me, one of the big things that I think the I'll call it public education system, for lack of a better word, but the public education system doesn't teach people not just about how to do personal finance, but like how to actually think about the value that you can create in the market, and how you can better deploy your money into various investment vehicles and savings and whatever else. Those are areas that are beyond my expertise, but also areas that I see value in that people need to explore. And the other option is trades. And again, these are all great things, but in and of themselves, they tend to limit people unless there's a clear path for how to navigate each level. Whether it's starting out, at the technical level, being a technician, increasing your knowledge base, and then becoming managerial, if you will. But then the next level after that is these executive roles, and I think that we're in a current situation in our economy where innovation and creativity are kind of well, they're stifled a little bit, but I think that we're also rife for it. I think it's time for some people to start accepting and taking the risks that we need to come away with some new ideas. But suffice it to say, one of the challenges that people have when they get into trades is, for example, if you want to be a machinist, it's really hard to start a machining business because you you have a lot of capital that's required to acquire equipment to a certain extent. Now, again, one of the things that I kind of want to explore throughout the videos that I create over time is how do we mitigate some of those costs by focusing on littler things, smaller areas, and then of course taking that and trying to find a way to scale. So, for example, let's say that you were interested in woodworking. That's actually an area of things that I find to be worthwhile, and I would love to spend some time creating some things out of wood. And so, to start out with that, it's simple tools. It's a router, it's a reciprocating saw or a jigsaw, a variety of tools that can give you the ability to cut out some rough shapes and do some things. But to take that to the next level, you have to get into CNC machines, and of course that's where the expenses start to come in. But I still think that there's some opportunity and openings there. So definitely want to explore some of those ideas throughout the series that I put together. The alternative path is these ideas of being an entrepreneur and taking time to learn independently. So the thing that has been a real game changer for me in recent times is that I re-engaged in reading. Of course, over the years, I've read so many books regarding software development and information systems, all of the things that go along with my career. But I didn't really spend time thinking about maybe some of the overlapping disciplines, whether it's business or as a developer. I did spend some time working as a designer. It wasn't a substantial role, but it was a part of one of my roles, a very early role. And design is a incredibly enjoyable opportunity in an area where I think I can contribute some ideas and enjoy again some of that creativity. But the key that the point that I'm really getting at is that independent learning, buying courses, finding people who have sort of put themselves out there to teach what they've learned through their experiences. And the other piece of this is learning through just experience, getting out there and doing it. A lot of people aren't really encouraged to take that chance, to take that risk. And it's not a great risk, right? Like, you get out there, you learn to network, you learn to engage with people who have similar interests or ideas. And then things can be born and built from there. But a lot of times I think the inclination is to discourage people from learning through those failures, because again, the school system, for better or worse, teaches people that failure is getting a bad grade. I don't think that's fair to anybody. I think that when you teach somebody that they got a bad grade and they failed, I think you simply encourage them to fail more, no matter what kind of situation they have at home. And yes, of course, as a parent, one of the things that I find that we have to do, my wife and I end up having to do with our kids is when they fail on a grade or get a bad grade on something, we iterate. We go back, we try to help them figure out where they failed or where they're struggling, help them fill the gaps, and then we reassess, meaning we help them get back through the test so that they can pass it. That's fine. Again, iterate, learn, and being an entrepreneur is very much that. So one of the things that I want to encourage people to do is take those chances early. Do the things that people sometimes kind of balk at, like, oh, you're running a lemonade stand, you're a 10-year-old, what are you doing, this is ridiculous or whatever. Do it anyways. Go out there, start it. If you want to go walk your neighborhood and try to get people to pay you to mow their lawns or whatever the case is, those are the important lessons. There are a lot of important lessons to learn from doing those kinds of things. So a little bit more about my story here for a minute. So as I'm sitting here, I'm holding my coffee mug, this coffee mug here. If at first you don't succeed, call dad. That's a generous thing for my kids to have said about me. But anyway, this is one of many mugs. And there's another mug that I have that's even I guess a bit more of a motivating factor in what I'm doing right now. So the other mug that I have is actually one that I don't drink out of. It just sits on my desk here while I work. But it says, "Best person ever." Now, "Best person ever" it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's this fun little thing that I have going on with my kids where I do something and then I boast and act like an arrogant fool. It's humorous. It's not meant to be serious, but it's a fun thing. But suffice it to say, I see this mug and I realize, I don't drink out of it. It's empty, and it made me realize that the words are empty because there's so many times and so many ways when I'm not filling the cup of being the best person ever. I know it's a tall order anyways, and that goes, sort of beyond what I want to get at here, but that's where my mind is at, is that, no matter where we're at in life, there's a lot of people who, are in my shoes where maybe they need to spread their wings a little bit and pursue some creative outlets. There's people who are trying to get started. Shoot, they have no idea what they're doing, and we have a system set up that's meant for them to go, find a menial job that requires very little experience, and those are okay. But I think we need to encourage people to want to go further, and we need to encourage people to try to pursue something out of their comfort zone much more frequently. And so a couple of things that I kind of want to, circle back to for a minute is self-improvement is this, sort of broad topic that there's so many people out there who've entered into, and too much of the content is, hey, go get fit, go work out, go get an exercise routine. Now, by all means, it's a huge facet. It's a major factor in really getting on the right track. It's the starting point, and it's something that you need to continue to be engaged in throughout your life. But physical fitness doesn't have to be about, becoming show worthy for social media or whatever the latest fad is. Just commit to fitness. Make it a priority. Schedule it into your week. However it works. Not everybody's going to have time to work out every single day, but you have to find a way to get something going on with your workout. Again, it's not the only thing. The other thing that's oftentimes brought to attention is bad habits. You're playing too many video games, watching too much TV. Again, I agree with that wholeheartedly. But what ends up happening is that we sort of focus in on the bad habits, and we're trying to break the bad habits. We're trying to fix those things, but we don't really have the ability to fix something without replacing, or we don't have the ability to eliminate a bad habit without replacing it. So I could probably go on for a great deal of time on this topic, but here's what I want to kind of offer as the 5 keys to taking charge and becoming your best. Personal development, self-improvement, those words are fine, but in and of themselves, they sort of are limiting. It's like, if you weigh 200 pounds and you want to lose weight, and you take an approach of like simply I want to lose weight, and then you say, okay, I'm going to work on self-improvement. Okay, well, you could drop 1 pound and go from 200 pounds to 199, and that's an improvement. So we need to have a bigger goal than just to get better, just to improve. So here it is: five keys to taking charge. First of all, reading. I brought this up a little bit earlier on. I've come across a number of different influencers who offer really great advice. They go into depth on some of these things. I just want to point out: find a book and read it. Find something you're interested in, read it. Nonfiction is not really what I'm talking about here. Nonfiction is not, it has its place, but I'm talking about find a book that helps you explore an area of interest. If you have an inclination to want to, build radio controlled airplanes, start pursuing that interest. Start finding out what the cost is. Start figuring out what it is what it takes to get involved in that. I could go on. I'm not going to do that. I just want to kind of point out that reading is incredibly important. Finding something that you're interested in, and then reading for an hour a day, give or take. But here's the thing: it's not about sitting down for 1 hour and reading. Pick out periods of time. If you have 30 minutes here, 20 minutes there, the aggregate should add up to an hour, and you can chew through books. You can read very fast that way. The last thing is this, on the reading, on the point of reading. Consider finding a way to really obtain or retain the information. So I like note taking, and I like underlining. So a red pen for underlining and a blue pen for note taking. Highlighters work too. Now there are people who will tell you that these things that's not the best way to do it, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying for me, what works is to take the notes, to underline and do that stuff. But when it comes to note taking, don't rewrite what you read. Write what you read in a way that you filter, that goes through your own filter. Change words around. Find a way to really understand what it is that you're reading, because even if it has the impact that you're looking for when you're reading it, if you don't write it in a way that's important, or that you filter, that you think through, it won't stick. So, which leads me to the next point, and that is journaling. So, writing is the way to really start to engage in your interests. If you don't write, it's going to be hard. Like you can probably just kind of go through a sort of random exploration, but if you don't write some things down to figure out what the next level is, like if I'm speaking from the perspective of a software developer, which I have experience in, if I didn't write information down, then I wouldn't have known as well, or I wouldn't have had an idea about the deeper curiosities that I had as a software developer. So starting out, I worked purely as as an HTML. Actually, initially I worked primarily with pure HTML. I wasn't writing CSS or JavaScript or anything. And one of the things that helped me in that process was I started to write down the process that I was using to update these web pages as a web assistant. And that's where I started to basically just ask simple questions like, how do I automate something, right? It's how do I build a process? And building processes is fantastic. That's a big factor in really developing a good product, a good business. There's a lot of good information out there on building systems. But writing down those things that I needed to know, or the questions that I had and the information I was learning, that was incredibly helpful for going to the next level. So I, of course, began exploring how do I style or how do I make the web pages look better or whatever. Guess what? CSS comes up, right? How do I create interactivity? JavaScript becomes the next thing. Now, again, I know I'm dating myself. I'm not trying to share with you the depth of knowledge that I have on software development. I'm trying to point out that writing down what you read or writing down the interests you have, journaling, taking time to think differently about your interests and the things you're pursuing is it's absolutely essential. You really can't figure out what you're trying to do unless you're writing. So a couple of ideas to expand on that a little bit is, try to write about what you might be able to do with the new information you're learning. So, if you decide you want to pursue software development, could you create an app? Can you create a website? Start a blog? Start to engage in social media. Engage with people who are talking about these things. Social media is not. Social media can be really detrimental to people, but it can also be very valuable. So be cognizant of how much time you spend on it. Use it for good purposes, and it can help you sift through all of these things and work towards the goal that you might have. So as I kind of mentioned already, think about things you can build, but actively engage in building something. If you're interested in creating something out of wood, if you want to, even if it's just as simple as a wall hanging, things you want to design interesting wall hangings that people might enjoy. Everybody has these kinds of things. They're all over the place. Put your unique perspective on it, but start making it right away. Don't wait till, I need to make it perfect. Well, no, the first one you do is not going to be perfect. It's just simply not. So dive in and work on that. Okay. Exercise. I already spoke about it. I'm not going to go into depth on this. I'm just going to point out, even if it's as simple as just going for a walk, 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, something like that. Maybe a longer walk if you have the time, but start exercising and commit to it. But when you commit to it, what I mean by that is start out with, okay, I need to walk or I need to exercise 3 times a week. Build it into your schedule, build it into a plan, and start to develop the discipline. So that's the next piece of this. Like another area of self-improvement that people focus on is discipline. Discipline is incredibly important. It's a tool that you have to build, or it's a muscle that you have to build probably as well. But discipline in and of itself is not going to accomplish anything. If you have this rigid schedule where you're not pursuing new opportunities, you're not stretching or getting uncomfortable, the discipline is meaningless. I mean, if I say, well, I'm going to sit down or I'm going to start my day with reading, and then I'm going to go for a walk, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do some writing. Those are all great, but until you kind of set something up as a goal and start to engage in the interests, the discipline is by itself, it's not helpful. So do become disciplined, but also have focused discipline. My last point is this: resist the urge to fill your time with escapism or buying expensive items. So there's a couple of things that I've experienced in my own life that I think have been pretty negative detractors. Sometimes you experience a period in your life where you make a little more money, and you say, oh, well, I'm going to go buy this thing. That would be really great. And I'm always a little disappointed in myself thinking back on that, because it wasn't that I wasn't trying to improve myself or become my best self, but I naively thought that I had become my best self. And that's another piece of this, another point to try to grasp is, you should never think that you've reached your best self. I'm not encouraging people to be, hardcore David Goggins. Like, I like David Goggins, actually. He's provided me with a great deal of value, and I've come away with things from his perspective that have changed how I see a lot of things. So I'm not saying, I'm not trying to disparage him, but at the end of the day, not all of us can be David Goggins. Not all of us can be, you name the person, go down the list, right? But that doesn't mean that we can't continually become better, and we can't have fulfilling endeavors throughout our entire life. So escapism, video games, binge watching sitcoms, whatever the case might be, resist the urge to do that. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any of that, but keep it limited. It's like social media, the same thing. Keep those things in a compartment, and make sure that they're not distracting you and and causing you to avoid the work that you can put in. And then really, in closing, curb your expectations in terms of how quick things will improve, or how fast you can make things happen. I think that's going to be different for everybody. Some people may have more success more quickly than other people, but at the same time, maintain some expectations. Do have some expectations. Set out to achieve something bigger. Set out to go further than where you are, and truly, I believe that the fulfillment that a lot of people are looking for comes from the desire to become their best. So self-improvement is a great concept, but I want to sort of crystallize that and bring it to a point where we're really starting to achieve higher levels, rather than just hitting small milestones and then giving up, or going back to our old ways, because I've seen that as well too. So I hope that what I've said today has impacted you in some good way. Again, this is kind of one of my creative endeavors, things that I want to pursue, just out of the sheer interest of producing video content. So I wish you the best, and until next time, signing out. More social.